Hi, friends and colleagues. This is Kristen Gyolai, and I'm here with Molly Tyroler. We wanted to find a way to broadcast some of the conversations that are happening right now for legal practitioners about how we are dealing with running our practices in our homes and our lives amidst COVID-19. And again, so many times over the past couple of days, I've checked in with our practitioners and I've had these private conversations, but this is really just our way of kind of getting that information a little bit more out there than I think it has been. So again, my name is Kristen Gyolai. I'm a workers' compensation attorney representing injured employees.
And I'm Molly Tyroler. I primarily practice in workers' compensation as well, but I do strictly mediations at this point. So I'm helping folks resolve their work comp cases and their personal injury cases. So Kristen and I have had a lot of conversations because Kristen and I both own law firms. And so we've had a lot of conversations about how our practice is changing or how our clients' needs are changing, ways that we're dealing with our staff and how other firms are dealing with associates and staff, secretaries and paralegals and clients in all facets of practice right now. So we just wanted to share some of that information we've been, chatting about. And one big thing that comes up is leadership, and how are we managing our workflow with our staff and making sure that everybody feels safe and secure in this really unsure time that we're in right now with this pandemic. And so certainly a lot of things have come up, and people feel different ways, and there are ways that we as leaders and employers or owners or shareholders can really work with our staff to make sure that we're still being productive while also being safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that it's an important conversation to have because, not just legal practitioners, but everybody all around the world is trying to find ways to really rise up right now in this time because it's scary. But particularly, in your position in leadership in a firm, how are people doing that? And what Molly and I were talking about is people in position of leadership being there for their employees. Molly had indicated that she had seen somewhere that employees are going to remember the way that their employers reacted during this time and how they were treated during this time. So to the extent that people can be accommodating to their employees, certainly, and be giving grace to their employees for how they can carry out their tasks and when they can do so, I think that's of the utmost importance right now.
Yeah, leading with care and compassion, making sure that our employees and staff have current information. As lawyers, we need to be making sure we're following a lot of these announcements that are coming out from our governor, but also making sure that we understand the move from working in an office with everybody there to primarily working from home. It looks different for every single one of us.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard a lot of stories where, I personally am getting a lot of emails and calls from clients right now. And I think a lot of that has to do with people who maybe have older kids or don't have kids, and they're working from home, they're not interrupted as much, and they're being really productive. And so they're reaching out a lot to me. And then on the other end of that, you've got people who have to deal with maybe an elderly parent living with them now, or really small kids, or kids who need help with school, trading off with spouses and trying to manage time and co-parenting in a way that, we've never had to do before. Right. And so certainly our staff is all over the board with that, anywhere from people who are being accommodated for various things, in the office. Now we're asking them to work from home, and we have to make sure that we're still accommodating them so that they can do the work productively and in a healthy and safe environment as well.
Absolutely. And along those lines, when we're talking about people being accommodated at home, we're talking about the hardware and the software that they have at their disposal to do their job. So I think it's really, really important to figure that out. We're some places are a week into working from home, some places have been doing it for a little bit longer, but I think it's important to continuously check in to make sure people have the tools that they need, whether that be hardware, software, what it might be. And I think that an important thing that you brought up, Molly, early in our conversation we had is not being afraid to try new things, because something that might work for you for a little while or might have worked in the office is not going to be the same outside of the office. And so being open to trying new um, ways of getting things done, whether it be Zoom, whether it be chat, whether it be Microsoft Teams, whatever it is. And I don't want to talk about those particular programs or anything like that ad nauseum today, because I think a lot of those resources can be found elsewhere. But the point that I want to drive home is that everybody's checking in with their employees to make sure that that those needs are being met.
Right. And how we communicate with our clients has changed also. This program that we're recording this on is Zoom, and I had never used Zoom before, 3 weeks ago, when everybody was changing their mediations from being in person to either being on the phone or via video conference. So I spent a lot of time, playing around with this and forcing my siblings or my parents to take a lot of
Oh yeah.
Zoom meetings so that I could play around with the settings.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And
The
so,
funny thing about Zoom is that there's this trend right now with people having like Zoom happy hours and like social out kids and for adults too via Zoom. So it's a tool that is very versatile.
right. And, when we're talking about leadership and managing our staff too, one thing, because Kristen and I did both reach out to various attorneys who practice both on the defense and on the plaintiff side, and ask them sort of, what are your struggles or what are you doing that's working? And one thing that keeps coming up in conversations that I've had or responses that I've had to that inquiry is, how do we keep employees feeling okay, feeling safe and secure? And
Yep.
one aspect of that, as silly as it seems, is like having an outlet for your employees to have like a water cooler conversation.
Yeah.
They can kind of go for a walk at work on a break and vent and get some frustrations out or talk privately. And how are we allowing them to have those conversations and connections, so that we keep morale as high as we can during this period? We're both isolated, but we're being forced to change how we do things, and people are having various levels of anxiety. So how do we make sure our staff is getting that level of connection? And a couple of things that we had thought of or people have brought up are, there are chat functions, there's Slack or Google Chat or different chat functions, and allowing your employees to have chat conversations with each other and encouraging that, and not monitoring it. I think it's really important that we give people space to talk about their frustrations and talk about their what they're going through. And then I know that as an owner of a business, I can certainly look at my secretary's emails, or I can look at her chats. But I really encourage people not to do that. I think that you just give people the freedom to have that water cooler connection virtually,
Yeah.
or even these Zoom meetings. I know it seems silly, but I've had these with my secretary or my friends, and it's really
Yes.
nice once in a while to like see Kristen's face versus send an email. So not tapping into their Zoom meetings for you technologically savvy people, but encouraging your staff to do that, or setting up a time like for employees to do that. That's one way. And then Kristen, you brought up a really good idea earlier too, if you want to touch on it, like checking in.
Yeah. So checking in with your employees, just, really, really getting down on a human level with them to see what their needs are, and, just checking in with them as a person. And then finding ways to brighten their day. So we talk about a lot of businesses. I mean, outside the legal community too, trying to support small businesses. So there are bakeries all around who are hungry for orders, and local sandwich shops. So send your employees lunch, send them some treats, and then get online for like a little virtual lunch date, or a coffee meeting, and um, just find ways to keep everybody happy and brighten their day. I know this morning what I told Molly was that I was having kind of a rough day this morning, trying to balance practicing law and parent a 3-year-old. And I certainly made my way over to Amy's Cupcake Shop. And while I was there, I got some for a friend, and I dropped him off at the doorstep because I thought, you know what, that mama's probably having a rough day too. So find ways to make people happy. That's really a way to rise up right now.
Yeah, and I've had a couple of comments from people that they're trying different things. And one thing that I've had a couple of different firms tell me they've tried is like a 9 o'clock meeting every morning to like check in
Mm-hmm.
on employees and how they're doing. And it seems like a really great idea to have that like structure every day, 9 o'clock. But what those firms found was that it was actually too overwhelming for people. They couldn't get on right
Yeah.
at 9. Then they felt worried that they were going to be like, somehow, um, get in trouble for not joining right at 9. And it just felt
Right.
almost too much. And one of the firms said they switched to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that helped a lot. The
Mm-hmm.
other firm says they're just doing it more sporadically, and it's more focused on like a topic. So like, hey,
Yep.
let's talk about um, the Smith and the Jones files that we have coming up for hearing in a month and a half. And then during that conversation, talking about how the kids are doing, also like connecting on a human level, but then having like a targeted reason to have that
Yeah.
communication, and varying the communication. Like,
Yeah.
sure, doing it this way once in a while on video chat, and then occasionally on phone and occasionally on email. I think all email or all telephone or all video conferencing gets overwhelming. Varying it can be really helpful for people to stay engaged.
Well, that's such a good point, Molly, because I think that the most important part that I want people to understand, at least from my perspective, is that if you think you have it figured out, if you think you've done it right, and that everything is perfectly in place right now, your systems are down. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but this is an ever evolving situation. And the most important thing you can do right now is to be flexible. Things are going to be different tomorrow, and you have to be willing to adapt and change. And you have to create a culture from the top down where your employees are going to be comfortable with that too. So don't be so concerned with getting a process and something written down, a written process. This is not the time to do that. It's the time to make sure that everybody's well taken care of, to make sure that your systems are working for you, but to understand that they're going to change as the times do.
Yeah, and remembering that, not everybody's going to put in a full 8-hour workday Monday through Friday. And trying to be flexible and setting boundaries on like, here are priorities we have to get done. We've got deadlines on X, Y, and Z things, and that can't be missed.
Yep.
But not just assigning busy work for the sake of filling somebody's hours to make sure they're being productive for a full 8 hours.
Yep.
It's going to look different for everybody. I think I put in more than 40 hours a week the first 3 days this week, and then now today I haven't been as productive.
Yep.
And certainly I don't have somebody who I'm answering to, but
Mm-hmm.
remembering like our employee may be a parent who they're splitting shifts, like my husband and I are both working from home and have demanding jobs. And so giving him the morning this morning, did learning with the kids. And then now we switched during the day, and remembering like, okay, your secretary may be on from 1 to 8 p.m. instead of like your normal
Right.
hour.
Right.
Um,
Give them grace and let them do that, because that's the way to keep people happy during this time, and that's the way that you're going to bounce back from it when this time eventually passes, and that's that's absolutely important.
well, and trusting them to get what they need
Yes.
Done. I mean,
Yes.
hired them for a reason. Trust them. I'll give them the space to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Uh, and here we go.
You
See?
know, you know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and understanding like your kids are going to pop in for your conference calls, even when they're
And people have
watching
been,
them.
I will say that the times that that's happened to me so far, it has gone over very well with opposing counsel, with whoever I'm on the phone with. If there's a little peep in the background, people are definitely understanding of that. Absolutely. And that's the way you have to be right now.
And there's the husband. I mean, we're getting the whole team here.
So maybe this is a good transition then into like what we're seeing in terms of what our clients need from us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this is really me posing questions to you, because I don't have the same type of clients you do. I mean, my clients are attorneys, and so their needs are a little bit different. But for me, it's what do my clients need? It's pretty straightforward. Like, I am getting a ton of emails about resurrecting old mediations that maybe were stagnant or did not resolve, and like making sure that I'm there to try to have those conversations with people again. But really, I just wanted to pose this question more to you, Kristen, and just talk about like, how are your clients managing this, and what do they expect from you right now?
Mhm. So what I'm finding, and I'm really surprised by it, but my clients, I kind of expected people to be freaking out a little bit and my phone to be ringing a lot with questions and concerns about how COVID-19 and the lack of medical treatment might affect people's workers' compensation cases, or how layoffs might affect their workers' compensation benefits. But quite honestly, people have been like calm about this situation. Clients of mine have been calm about the situation. And I think more than anything, they're preoccupied with the state of the world, not necessarily the state of their workers' compensation case. And so the way that I'm responding to that is I'm the one to reach out to them, and I'm saying to them, I'm here, I'm still working, I'm still moving along your case the best that I can within the constraints that, the court has right now, that we have for, medical treatment right now. But more than anything else, I am here for you. And whatever it is that you need from me, tell me. So I'm having conversations just about how people are doing and feeling and handling the state of the world right now. And then what I'm finding is that my clients are leveling with me in a way that they haven't before. They're asking me about how my family is, and they're asking me about what it's like for me to be practicing and having a young daughter at home. And it's incredible the response that I'm getting from my clients and that I'm giving to them, being able to be on such a human level with them, because they recognize and I recognize that this is bigger than a work comp case. This is bigger than the confines of my office walls or the courtroom walls. This is a world pandemic, and I don't say that to be dramatic. I just say that because it's a big thing, and we need to be human with each other, and we need to be there for each other. And that's what I'm finding is most important to my clients right now.
Yeah, and I'm hearing a lot of injured workers and adjusters having a lot of conversations about how this affects people's ability to get treatment,
Yep.
um, or they're getting laid off, whether
Yep.
it's related to their injury or not. I mean, there's a lot more layoffs happening, generally speaking, or, if they were in job placement and now they're not, I mean, they're not able to find a job. And even these jobs that we think are like essential and booming, trucking and healthcare and these things, they're struggling and laying people off left and
Yeah.
right too. And so there's a lot of concerns from both sides during a mediation, surrounding
Yes.
those topics. That stuff is coming up, but I do
Mhm.
I do find that adjusters, insurers, and defense attorneys are being really cognizant of the fact that it's not possible to go in and see your primary care doctor to get updated restrictions right now.
Yep.
And I think employees, one thing that a lot of plaintiffs attorneys are telling their employees is to try to do these phone check-ins with
Yeah.
their doctors.
Yep.
There's a lot of doctors doing that to get
Yeah.
updated questions, but it's hard to get records. It's hard to get a hold of doctors, so
Yeah.
it's strange for cases. And one thing I will say is that, I'm getting a lot of calls last week and this week scheduling mediations. I mean, I'm at like an all-time high right now getting mediations on the
So do
book.
you think that people are really motivated to settle cases right now?
Yeah, I think
Resolve cases? Mm-hmm.
I'm getting, and I don't know why. I think some of it is, people are worried financially about how this is going to play out or how long this is going to happen. Um,
Yeah.
but it's allowing people to look at early resolution of claims too. And
Yeah.
I think both sides are being, I think one thing that's really important is both sides are understanding or making assumptions. And so like, I
Mm,
understand that you could go get an IME and that the IME could say X and Y and Z, or I
yep.
understand we're waiting for a narrative from your client's doctor, Kristen, and
Yep.
based on what they've written in medical records, I'm making the following assumptions about what that narrative will say. I think attorneys are more willing or should be more willing to sort of make those assumptions if we want to get some
Mm,
early resolution of claims,
yeah.
where instead of being like, well, I'm going to wait until you have that narrative before my client's willing to consider paying more. I think being more
Mm,
lenient on that and making some assumptions about that is really helpful into these like early resolution of claims
oh, that's
um,
interesting.
that people want.
Yep.
And, I don't know. I think the last point I would make about like checking in with clients, just to shift a little bit,
Hmm.
is I think this is a really good opportunity also for us to call our clients and
Yes.
to have sort of no reason to check in and build relationships, either from the defense perspective or from plaintiff's perspective, calling doctors you have relationships with or people in the community you have relationships with, your current clients, um, adjusters who you maybe haven't seen files from for a little
Yep.
while, or just contacts that this is a really good excuse to send a card and to check in on
Yes.
people, to pick up the phone and
Yes.
make a phone call, to send flowers or whatever,
Yep.
and take time to like maybe build some business relationships also and
Yes.
focus on
Yes.
the future, because that stuff will start to pay out, once this all starts to wrap up too.
Yes, I think that you're absolutely right, and I think that neither of us mean that in an opportunistic way. We we're just genuinely caring about other people right now, and it's a good time to reach out. And I think that simultaneously you're building goodwill, and that's going to benefit you later.
Yeah. Well, and sharing successes and failures with people,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
hey, we tried 9 a.m. Zoom meetings every day and our employees hated it. Like telling people that so like they have the heads up on stuff, and
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
sharing information just prevents us all from sort of rewriting the
Yeah,
whatever.
which is exactly why we wanted to do this call. And so my hope is that people find it helpful and that people want to continue the conversation and that we continue to find ways to broadcast these ideas, because I think there's a lot of exchange of information right now and people doing good things, but find a way to share it with others is my takeaway.
Yeah, and I think on a final note, I'm going to steal what you said before we had this call because I think it was really awesome. I even wrote it down. Don't don't yeah, the general rule is, and you can take it from me here, but don't stress about having it perfect today because this whole thing is evolving. And I
Mhm.
wrote it down when you said it because I thought it was really good. Be okay with not having all the answers right now and just trying to figure it out day by day, and really focus on making sure your employees and your clients feel safe and secure is number one. And people will remember that. People will remember
Yes.
that 2 months down the road when we're all coming back out of this. And and I think that's what's going to get us through it in the meantime, and it's also what's going to pull us through on the other end.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
And
thanks, Molly.
yes, thank you. And if anybody wants to chat or whatever, Kristen and I are here, and you know,
100%.
these are the type of conversations we're always willing to have with people and reach out, and we miss you guys, and we are excited to see you all soon.
Yes.
And thanks so much for listening to us talk today.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.